We're going to do a little sub-segment within the Red Challenge flag segment here.
Oh.
You are the author, the creator of the much ballyhooed Reception Perception. You're working with Next Gen Stats as well to determine, or already have, the top 10 wide receivers in tight coverage. Lay it on us. What are your findings?
Right, so we've got 1 through 5 right there on the screen if you're watching. And number 1, I think, is a surprise for a lot of people, is Davante Adams leads the NFL with the best catch rate in tight coverage. You would not have said that in 2015 when all he did was drop a lot of passes. You also got Julio Jones at number 4. He's playing this weekend too in that same game. I think everybody kind of expects that. Another surprise might be Stephon Diggs at number 5. You know, he's a little dude. He's played a little bit in the slot, but I think he's a star in the making. And then, 6 through 10, you've got Anquan Bolden, who I think we could probably just rename this metric the Bolden score.
What defines tight coverage?
So tight coverage,
because I would think Antonio Brown's in double coverage every week. Des Bryant sees double coverage every week. How are they not on this list?
Well, we'll get to the Antonio Brown thing in a second, but what defines tight coverage for Next Gen Stats is when the receiver has less than a yard of separation from the defender covering him.
How much of it do you think is because some of the quarterbacks on that list, like Aaron Rodgers, are willing to make those throws where some quarterbacks would just look away?
And are more precise with those throws.
Right,
exactly.
Well, Rodgers, who you spoke of there, he has a 53% completion rate when throwing into tight windows, and that's the best in the NFL.
Yeah, right.
So that makes a huge difference, and I think you see Adams and Rodgers, it's a great example right there, that just precise connection within tight coverage. So that makes a huge difference. There's a little bit of lap over. I also wrote the top 10 most aggressive quarterbacks throwing into tight coverage. There's a little bit of overlap between who's on that list and who's on this list as well. So there's definitely a quarterback and receiver relation there. But in terms of Antonio Brown, why he doesn't pop up on this, although he does have a 48.1 conversion rate there, which is above the league average. He's not one of the leaders because he gets a ton of separation all the time. I'm writing a piece today on the top 10 number 1 receivers that have the best separation scores, and he's number 1 on that list.
That kind of makes sense. All right,
that's his best skill.
Didn't have the
you upset Dave by not.
I did not.
But we're bringing it back.
You brought it back.
You
managed to find
the
a
way,
list he is number 1 on.
So I legitimately would think Davante Adams notwithstanding that part of it is also that these aren't burner guys although Julio Jones is.
So some guys, obviously that's why you have a lot of different, you can't just look at one metric to evaluate a wide receiver's play in whole. There's this obviously skill where you win balls in contested situations, but there's also getting open, and some players like Julio Jones pop up in the top 10 on both lists, and that kind of shows you that they can do a little bit of everything.
Dez to me is still the number 1 contested ball, or however you want to call it, 50-50 ball or whatever.
Yeah, his 50-50 balls are 90-10 balls.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that there's nobody better than him.
He and Dak got a lot
I
better
always used to
with
say
that.
Megatron got a lot of credit, deservedly so, but I still would take Dez. If you said like you got one throw into the end zone, double cover, who are you going to take there? That would be the guy I would want there. All right, good stuff there, Harmon.